Hello everyone. So this video is just going to be a kind of general discussion about whether or not making an Elite Four team is worth it. I originally wanted to make a guide video talking about my personal Elite Four run team that I've been using. I didn't make it, but just the one that I picked. But as I kind of waited to do so due to some personal life events, I kind of realized that there's a lot of speculation right now going about potential changes coming to the game. We just got Black and White 2 announced, so who knows what kind of host of changes that'll bring to the game. But it kind of led me to question whether or not it would be worth for someone who doesn't have a team or any kind of Elite Four like foundational member. So if they don't have a Chansey, they don't have like a 6x Volcarona, those kind of things. If it's worth it for that person to get into it now compared to just using their money to invest into a different method like trainer rerunning, gym rerunning, those kind of things. So I kind of just wanted to kind of look at it from like a broad perspective, talk about it, and just give my own opinion on whether I think it's worth it or not for a person who's new to Elite Four rerunning, and then of course you can make your own decision from there. So the big cost of any Elite Four team is going to be the cost of creating the Pokemon that you need. Unlike gym rerunning and trainer fighting, you need basically perfect Pokemon in order to take on the Elite Four. The current strategies rely very heavily on predicting exactly what the Elite Four are going to do and taking advantage of that. So some popular structures are going to use Gengar. Gengar is a really popular Pokemon for these because you can Encore lock them. In the past, we used to be able to use Trick Pokemon in order to force the Elite Four to kind of repeat their moves, but those were target nerfed to where the Elite Four will just get rid of their choice scarfs anytime that you trick one onto them. With that in mind, right, it's become a lot more important to get these specific mons. There are a couple cheaper ones, right? So Chansey is on a lot of these teams, and unlike the other Pokemon, you really only need 3 perfect stats for Chansey, just being the HP, the defense, and the special defense. You could go lower attack, but I normally don't, and that's normally fine. It would be more optimal, and that's kind of the thing, right? Is that the Pokemon that are cheap are really cheap, but the Pokemon that are expensive are going to cost far more. So I'll throw it up on screen, but you can get like a 3x31 bold Chansey for easily under 150,000. Right, and that's for most people not a big ask. That is less than a gym run's worth of money. But even just the next cheapest Pokemon is going to be it's a 3x31, right? The 3x31 Slowbro. This is another really common Pokemon on some of these teams because you're going to yawn, put them to sleep, and then either teleport or switch out, right? That gives you that one turn you need to set up, use an X item, whatever needs to be done, right? But hidden ability Slowbros, right, which is what it relies on, are really expensive. The cheapest one I was able to find was about 600k, a little less. And it just gets to worse and worse from there. So, after all was said and done, so I used an example team. This is not the one that I am using. Also, I like to use Oracle Farm. There are plenty of other options. I used to use Pokeking all the time. I just use this because I like having it on the same screen. But again, that's beyond the scope of this video. So, as an example, I went and kind of did a rough calculation of how much it would cost to make the team for Sacred Inferno. So this is a relatively popular team. I don't think it's the most popular, but let me pull up the PokePaste over here. So you guys can see Chansey, Slowbro, and then you need a perfect Gengar, right? You can't even get away with just whatever attack. It needs to be perfect with 0 attack. Same thing for the Volcarona, right? These both need to be 6x31 with the correct natures. These two are really expensive. I found a Ghastly for about 800k. It'll probably cost you more. And there was only one 6x31 natured Volcarona on the market. And I'll talk more about kind of creating your own Pokemon and why, while they'll save you money, it won't save you as much as you'll think, right? And then, luckily, Glade and Gliscor for this example team, you don't need perfect special attack, so you only need 5x31 natured Pokemon. And so again, whenever I kind of calculate all that up, you're spending around like 4 to 4.5 mil. And that's just to buy the Pokemon. You still need to train them, you need to EXP train them, you might have to reset EVs with berries, right? So all of this adds up a lot, and I think it's the biggest barrier to any Elite Four team, is spending the money just to create the Pokemon. And as far as creating your own Pokemon goes, I'm pretty sure you could get some of these prices cheaper, right? But it is still going to be a big investment to breed these Pokemon yourself. I kind of did like a test example where I found like a 3x31 or 2x31, one of the two, Gliscor, right? And I was like, what if I use this as a base to create another Gliscor, right? Because right now, if you try to buy a 5x31 Adamant, either Gligar or Gliscor with hidden ability, you're looking at almost a mil. 950k was the price that I found it around. The price to with, so using a base Pokemon, right, and breeding that Pokemon up to be that 5x31, you are still spending over 700,000 worth of braces, right? And that is, let me see, yes, yeah. So I'll pull up this calculator here. I didn't make this calculator, but I kind of just want to point out. So if we want a 5x31, right? And let's just say we already have a Gligar. We'll even make it female, which will make it easier for us. Right, so we'll put 2x31. So I think the one I found was Adamant. Give it a second to load. And we'll throw a third one in to make it even better for us, right? So we're not really going to spend time looking at the tree because that's not the important part here. But once it's done calculating, even with 5x31, okay, you're not spending 700k, right? But you're spending like almost 600k, and that Gliscor I found was actually almost 200k. So my point kind of stands there, right? This is just with the price of Everstones. I put in the current price of Everstones at the time of recording, which is about like 3,000. Even with that, you are still spending a monstrous amount on your breeding items, on paying gender fees to make sure that it's going to turn out correctly. So, again, you can find good deals, but I don't want to give you guys the idea that just, oh, I'll just breed it myself and it'll be 100% cheaper and all that, right? Because not to mention, breeding perfect Pokemon is hard. It's really easy to mess up, and if you mess up a perfect breed Pokemon, you are going to lose a lot of money in the process. You can resell it for some value, but you're not getting all that back. And then the final cost section that I kind of want to talk about is how much you're going to be spending on items to just complete the run. So if you look up here in the top bar here, these are just some of the items that you're going to need. It depends on each team. Each team has a different amount of items required. Part of the reason that I picked the team I'm using, which is, I don't even know how to say this, I'm not going to pretend to, is because it's really low item use compared to the other choices. So again, it does depend on what team you're using, but just as a rough estimate, people often spend per run about 85,000 yen for one run. I've just found a couple examples and kind of just average it out. Some of them are from older posts, so again, the numbers might not be accurate, but I don't think the exact numbers really matter that much here. So put a charm on top of that, which you're right now for 100% riches, you're paying 140,000, and I would actually use a 75% charm. I'll talk about that more whenever I talk about the revenue you're going to earn, right? But point being, you're spending probably like 230,000 on supplies and the charm. So, and in addition, you normally want to stock up, especially on revival herbs, a lot all at once. Which again, in talking about that initial investment, it is a lot for a new player who is like, I want to make money. I heard pure yen methods are good. Let me get into this, right? It is a lot of starting yen for a brand new player. Or not even brand new, right? Just someone who hasn't built up a sizable stack. I'm fortunate. I spent a lot of time playing the game. I made investments. I sold them off, and I've done a lot of gym runs, and then I love Elite Four runs, so I've done quite a few. But again, talking about purely from the perspective of someone who hasn't gotten into them and is trying to decide if it's worth that investment, right? That is a lot to ask of a player to put 4.5 to 5 million on a team. And then if we start talking about the investments per run. So some people are really good at this and are able to do all 5 Elite Four consistently, or at least relatively consistent, right? I'm not one of those people. I've done like 50 runs, give or take, and most of the time I do not get to that 4th Elite Four. Let me go instance info, right? I've done Unova a lot more because there's times where I'll just do Unova and then go do something else, or I don't know. Unova is just my favorite. That's why I sit here. But point being, right? Like I've done quite a few runs, and I struggle to get that 5th Elite Four in time. A lot of those Sinnoh completions, because Sinnoh's the last region I do personally, are actually I'll barely miss that timer by like a minute, right? It is that hard to get it pretty consistently. And that's me doing logout strats, right? Which again, it's over the scope of this video, but I'm putting that baseline out there that I would calculate, especially for someone getting into Elite Fours, that 4 Elite Four should be the goal. So with that in mind, I'm going to pull up this charm calculator, which if you guys aren't using this, that is, okay, yes. If you guys aren't using this for your other runs, right, this is a really helpful resource as far as doing gym runs, right? I really do think it is worth the time. Sure, it might be annoying checking each one to see what it's worth, but I really do think it's worth it. So Elite Four all pay the same, so it doesn't matter which one you put in here. And then I put the charm costs at the time of recording in here. They fluctuate a little bit, but as of right now, they've kind of been stable enough. For the most part, you're not going to be using amulet coins. If you're brand new to Elite Four, or for me, if I'm not feeling confident that day, maybe I'm tired, or maybe I just don't want to worry about wasting as much money, I will just pop in amulet coin. It's still pretty worth it. But I really do think that you need to be getting to that Riches 75. And I'm going to be using Riches 75 when I talk about breaking even and all that stuff in a little bit. So, again, so we talked about it. You're going to be spending like 80,000 a run on supplies, just kind of depending, right? Depending on your team and all of that. So that's going to be cutting into this cost here. So, I'm not even going to include supplies when I talk about breaking even, which is just going to kind of support my point further when I get to my conclusion, right? So again, we're going to say 388,000, right? If you spend a 5 mil as an investment into this team, and then you get 388,000 yen every time you do a run, it's going to take over 13 runs in order to break even. That is assuming that you don't mess up a single one of those runs. You don't use more items than you need to because you made a mistake, which I do all the time. I get something killed, I have to adapt, or I spend so long fixing a solve that I made a mistake on, or that I misread the translation, leading me to then spend more time and not be able to hit. Sometimes I don't even hit that 4th, right? So, assuming best case scenario, you would have to do 13 runs of this. 13, again, more to break even. That's not even making a profit on your 5 mil. That is breaking even. And I think that that's something that's really important to consider whenever you're thinking about getting into Elite Four runs, is that you have to, there's so much investment involved, so many places you make mistakes just creating the team, and then even during the run, things can go wrong, and even when they do go right, again, you have to make 13 runs more in order to actually be able to make your money back. And that's why, for me personally, I think for most players, it's not worth getting into Elite Four runs right now, right? And the reason I say right now is because we know that Q has talked about wanting to change the general AI of PvE, and he specifically has mentioned Elite Four runs. And that's the part that's concerning to me, is asking a new player to invest so much into a team, right? Having to make so many good runs to make their money back, let alone make a profit, and we have no idea when things are going to change, right? Maybe we'll get that public test in September, and things won't change, or maybe Black and White 2 won't change the AI. We have no idea what changes are coming, and that's, again, part of why I think it is really hard to tell a new player that you have to spend so much money on a team in order to have to make so many runs and do them well enough to make your money back and then continue to make it. Whereas if you were to make a gym run team, you could make a pretty good gym rerun team, or even just a basic one, for like less than 300,000. It's been shown time and time again. You could do the simple Petrowski one where you do the 2 Typhlosions, the 2 throwaway mons at the beginning to set up Tailwind and Sun, right? And it's just so much easier to tell a new player, go do that while we wait and see what the Elite Four strategies will become when those changes eventually come. While I am saying that I wouldn't recommend it to a new player, I don't think that if you are interested in doing Elite Four runs and think they are going to be fun, I wouldn't want you to not do it just based off of this. I mean, who's listening to me to begin with, right? But it's part of why I haven't made a guide yet. Now, for the 3 of you who actually are watching this, if you want me to go ahead and make that guide anyway, even if it's not going to be useful, maybe just as a relic of, the past whenever that time comes, I would be more than happy to make it still. But it just led me to this question of, is it really worth telling a new player? Again, sorry, I keep using the word new player, but telling someone who isn't into Elite Four runs already, who doesn't have pieces already good to go, or doesn't have a massive cash stack, right? Because for a lot of people, especially those looking to get into Elite Four runs because they aren't in them yet, 5 mil is a lot of cash, right? Sometimes it doesn't feel like it when you already have 10 mil, 15 mil, especially once you start getting towards the 20 mil, right? 5 mil is a chunk, but it doesn't feel like the end of the world. But for a lot of players, 5 mil is the most they might have had ever. That was me for the longest time. For a long time, I could never get a cash stack over 5 mil. And so again, that just kind of leads me to my conclusion. And I want to know what you guys think. If you guys are already doing runs, tell me about it. And again, if you want to see a guide of me going over the run that I like to do and going more in-depth into, kind of just how to approach them, if you think that's something that's worth making, just let me know.